You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better. Put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If Deku Enters Garo? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of the Kaigu-hunter on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Mizutofu, Japan. On the way from a park during a sunset, a green-haired woman was walking home with her son, who looked upset and beat up. Why did he have to get his quirk, Mom? Everything was fine before it appeared. The boy stated as he sniffled in between his sentences. I don't know, Izuku. I guess some people change when they get their quirk. The mother simply said as they neared home, or rather an apartment complex that they call home. Anyway, however, as they arrived at the start of the building, the sun had almost disappeared, they became targets for something lurking in the shadows. Getting a bad feeling, the mother turned around to look behind them, only to find nothing. Mom, what's wrong? And nothing, sweetie. Just my imagination. She assured Izuku before turning back around, only to scream in fear as she was tackled by a demon that looked like death was thrown into a wood chipper. Mommy. Pinning the woman down, the abomination began to inhale a strange small black mist coming from her pores as she went unconscious. And not enough. Not enough. It shouted with a gravelly voice as it got up and turned to Izuku, who was paralyzed by fear. More. The demon demanded as it got ready to lunge at him. As Izuku covered his face, waiting for the inevitable, only for it to never come as he heard metal hitting flesh. When he uncovered his eyes, he saw a blue knight with a wolf design standing in front of him with a sword, that was a cross between a scimitar and a longsword, while the demon was on the ground a few meters away. Track playing, Baron's theme must find name to from Garo Makai Senki. The knight jumped to the demon as it got back up and backed away from where he was about to strike. It then tried to hit him with its claws, but he was able to duck underneath and stabbed his sword into the chest, causing the demon to screech in pain as it began to disintegrate as he widened the wound with a slash. Before he could relax, another demon attacked him from behind, this time resembling a human's upper body resting on top of a man-sized scorpion. The impact caused the knight to fall onto his stomach and his sword to slide to Izuku's feet. As the knight turned onto his back, the demon then tried to use its pincers to grab the knight, only for said pincers to be grabbed by him, holding them in place before he then pulled his legs underneath and began pulling the arms off while pushing it off. As it screeched in pain, the knight was able to get back up, but now he had no sword and was getting tired. Back with Izuku, he stared at the sword for what felt like hours to him before his expression went from fearful to determined. He then grabbed the sword with both hands and looked to the knight, who was now punching the demon while evading the stinger, while trying to raise the blade with everything he had until it was barely off the ground. Meanwhile, the knight began to slow down from exhaustion as he was punched repeatedly by the upper half until one blow caused him to be knocked back down, which causes his armor to suddenly disappear, revealing a seemingly ordinary black-clothed trench coat. This also caused his sword to change into a Jien sword. However, this doesn't stop Izuku as he ran up to the demon and swung downward, taking off 2 legs on its left side while falling down and causing it to screech in pain. Seeing his last chance to finish this, the man grabbed the sword, jumped back up, and proceeded to decapitate the demon, causing its body to vaporize completely. Back with Izuku's mother, she began to come to when she saw the man sitting down and Izuku on his knees and hands, both equally exhausted. Kid, that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. You remind me of a younger me. The man told Izuku with a grateful smile. And when he saw that his smile was genuine, Izuku bashfully looked away with a smile while getting back up before the man grabbed his sword and got back up. Izuku. His mother called out while running to him. "Mommy! You're okay." Izuku called back as the two embraced each other. "You're lucky that the horror took your quirk instead of your life," the man told the woman as he sheathed his sword in a scabbard hidden inside his coat. "Are you a hero, mister? It's not nice to insult someone, brother," the man stated with a serious look, before giving Izuku a joking smile. 10 years later, Aldera Junior High. So, as third-year students, it's time to start thinking seriously about your futures and what you want to do with your lives. A teacher of the classroom told the mostly seemingly normal students before flinching at the sound of metal clicking. "I could pass out some career aptitude tests, izukumidoriya." A blonde teacher called out right after hearing a second click as a black-haired boy with a scar on his right eyebrow, a metal arm on his left side that connects up to his real elbow, and wearing a black leather trench coat with a small snake skull hanging from the front of his coat, looked up from his desk and to the teacher. "Can you please stop that racket? My arm clicks on its own, I have no control," Izuku told the teacher before clenching his fist, revealing a ring in the shape of a skull. "I wouldn't have had this arm if it weren't for those heroes, so deal with it." "Funny, considering your choice in school," the teacher muttered sarcastically. "Anyway, I couldn't hand out career aptitude tests, but I know better. I know you all want to go to the hero track," he stated, causing everyone but Izuku to cheer while suddenly changing form drastically, some of which simply controlled an element to others now appearing slightly monstrous. Yes, you've got some very impressive quirks, but no power usage allowed in school. Get a hold of yourselves. Hey, teach. Don't lump me in with this bunch of losers," someone told the teacher, causing the whole room to go quiet. They all then turned to the voice and saw a spiky-haired blonde with red eyes, leaning back on his desk with his legs resting on the table. "I'm the real deal, but these guys will be lucky to end up as sidekicks to some busted D-lister." "Ha!" the boy claimed arrogantly, causing everyone to get mad at him, though it seems he doesn't care. "Ha, you've got impressive test results. Maybe you will get into UA High," the teacher stated as the whole class went to murmurs. "That's exactly, it's the only place worthy of me," the blonde stated before jumping onto his desk like a jackass. "I aced all the mock tests, I'm the only one at this school who stands a chance in getting IWHA-. Before he could finish, a hand shot out at one of the legs of his desk and proceeded to yank the desk from underneath him, causing him to face flat on his face. "Look at that, pride goeth before the fall," Izuku said as his extended robotic arm released the desk and retracted back to its original length, getting a chuckle out of the other students. However, the laughter was quickly stopped as the boy got back up, now sporting a furious look. "You son of a b!" the blonde yelled in rage as he lunged at Izuku with a reeled back arm, who had gotten out of his seat. In that moment, the blonde suddenly shot an explosion out of the palm of his readied hand as Izuku ducked underneath, before he hooked his good arm around the boy's neck and grabbed his left arm with his own. "I may be quirkless, bakugou, but I can still snap your neck like a twig. That's enough, both of you," their teacher demanded as Izuku was choking out Bakugou until he turned his attention to him. "Everyone in this school knows about your mutual hatred. Actually, mine's more of a disdain than hate. Either way, if you keep this up then neither of you will get into UA," he informed them, causing Bakugou to stop struggling for a second before doubling his effort despite it being in vain. However, in the end, Izuku decided to let go of Bakugou before pushing him away. "You're right. Besides, it'll be a cold day in hell before a freak like him becomes a hero," Izuku declared before turning back to his seat, until he saw most of his classmates snickering. "That better be about what I said, and not about my choice in high school," he said before Bakugou got back up, literally blinded by rage, and tried to attack him again. "Die!" Bakugou yelled right before he was clocked in the face by Izuku's mechanical arm, causing BLD to spew from his broken nose while he was thrown onto his back. After that, everyone went silent, all except for Bakugou, who was screaming in agony on the floor while holding his face. Next one to do that will be missing their nose. Izuku warned as everyone now looked at him in fear. Meanwhile, in a white room away from the school, the man from 10 years ago and a woman with a bob-cut dark blue and pink streaked hair in a similar outfit were standing in front of a woman in an Asian-styled uniform with a scroll in her bun-styled hair and a gem on her forehead. Wataru, Kana, how has your investigation been? Subpar at best, VERYYYY. I can now see why both Takeru and Aguri had turned up nothing for a whole decade. Wataru stated to VERYYYY as she just clicked her tongue and passed side to side for a minute before stopping. Then we'll have to try Nizu of UA High, he can help. VERYYYY told them as Kana nodded while Wataru simply scowled at her. You seriously want outside help, from a freak? In case you forgot, they're all scheming backstabbers, that was proven years ago. You can't possibly blame the entirety of pro-heroes on the actions of one. After all, I was one once. Besides, the High Priestess trusts him as he trusts her. Kana stated while placing a hand onto Wataru's shoulder. Which reminds me, VERYYYY, how are preparations for the UA investigation? Kana asked VERYYYY. The 4 ninth graders are ready to attend. Nizu is aware of the mission and is allowing it, so long as they don't cause trouble. VERYYYY, and barring any complications, it'll be smooth sailing. Someone, stop that monster. In another part of the city, a disgusting creature made of slime was quickly running through a street as some of the people were watching with fear. Yell all you want, this cash is mine. The creature declared as it turned to another street. Dude, where are all the heroes? Weird, normally someone should swoop in right away. Maybe they're all still busy from that scene this morning. Remember when we didn't have to worry about randos with quirks all the time? One of the civilians asked another as the creature turned onto another street. Seriously, there's no stopping M. Yes there is. A tall and buff man said, getting some of the civilians to turn around and see him, happy to see him as he walked onto the streets. You know why? Because I am here. Aldera Junior High, 3 hours later. On the side of the middle school with a shadow, Izuku was now holding a red envelope and a gold lighter with an eye in the middle. He activated the lighter, letting out a small green fire as he placed the letter just above it, burning it. However, the ashes of the envelopes then became words to an unknown language. Silently reading it over like he understood the language, he swatted the ashes away before leaving the premises with a grin. Time for horror number 28. Izuku, you should be careful. In this day of age, horrors have become more powerful thanks to consuming quirks. The ring on his finger warned as he raised it to hear it better. The horrors also grew reckless with the quality of the quirk they eat, Zaruba, so it'll be more cathartic and stress-relieving for me. Izuku stated as he passed the gate. After a while, Izuku walked up to a tunnel with a street overhead. This is the place. He must be hiding until nightfall. A horror that sticks to what it knows. Smart. Izuku claims as he then walks inside. As he walked around, he stopped and unsheathed a Jien sword from a scabbard inside his coat along with a gold revolver with lion-themed engravings. Come out, horror. And face your reaper. Izuku said as his voice echoed. Just then, he heard something wet moving behind him, getting him to turn around and see a creature made of slime. A Makai Knight. You'll make a nice suit to hide in. The only place you're hiding in is hell. Izuku told the monster as he raised his sword straight upward and drew a circle of light, causing a golden suit of lion-themed armor to fall onto Izuku, wrapping itself around him, increasing his height to that of an adult with the equal bulk as his sword changed into a longsword. In response, the creature then molded itself into a horror with dozens of skull engravings on it, sharp, long claws, and a frill around its melted-looking head. Track playing, theme of Garo from Garo, chapter of the Black Wolf by Triforce. As Izuku shifted into a pin guard with one hand, the horror began to form floating globs as they circled the horror. After a few seconds, they attacked with Izuku firing 3 bullets and the horror launched some of the globs in an X as they connected and passed each other, causing the bullets to drop prematurely and Izuku to roll underneath it before sprinting to the horror. With 2 hands, Izuku parried a clawed arm before sweeping underneath to cut the limb off. As it screamed, Izuku kicked it into a wall, embedding it. "This is your end, Angurei," Izuku told Angurei before preparing to land the killing blow until it shot Izuku with a stream of slime as it pushed him back a few feet and ate bits of the surrounding area like acid. Fortunately the blast isn't too strong, so he was able to stop and aim for Angurei's feet with his gun before shooting its left foot, causing it to scream in pain before stopping to tend to its foot until it realized that its foot was turning to gold. While distracted, Izuku got in close and decapitated Angurei before the rest of its body turned into a statue. "DMN, you. Garo," it said as the head disintegrated. "Ah, that was therapeutic," Garo stated as he stretched his arms out before putting his weapons away. "Looks like the prototype works." Zaruba claimed Garo before holding one of the flat sides of his sword to Zaruba, causing it to squint its eyes. "Never mind," it muttered before Garo walked out of the tunnel before the armor flew off him and disappeared while he walked away. Just then as he left, the man pursuing the creature showed up to see the gold statue of Angurei missing an arm and a head. "What the?" he said in confusion as he walked into the tunnel with a fake smile. "Strange, I could have sworn I heard the villain fighting someone." The man hummed before he approached the statue to inspect it, noting that it was hollow. "Great. Lost the villain and the money he stole," he told himself as he then decided to bring the statue with him before leaving. An hour later. Now in an apartment, Izuku was sitting on the couch as he stared at a letter with a scowl. "Izuku, are you kidding me?" Flashback, 3 weeks ago. "I am not going to a high school full of freaks. I can barely handle middle school." Izuku yelled out in Ryuumi's room, currently housing Wataru, Kana, Ryuumi herself, and 2 other girls. One was petite with chin-length hair in an all-black skin-tight suit and wore white pauldrons, gauntlets, and boots, and the other was taller by half a foot with long orange hair done up in a ponytail and wore a green shin-length chipao underneath a Viking breastplate, for black leather forelimb guards, and a 2-sided axe on her back. "Izuku, we all know of your hatred of quirks, but then why are you having me go to UA? You already have a darkness huntress going." Izuku yelled at Ryuumi as the darkness huntress approached him. "Izuku, that's enough. This is about the guy who caused this mess in the first place," she told Izuku, causing him to pause for a moment. "After all these years, we can finally bring him to justice, for your arm and the fledglings that died that day," the orange-haired girl stated as she tapped the axes. "Yeah, but this is a sting operation, not a capture mission. We traced the traitor to the UA high school, and thanks to the principal of the school, he has allowed a handful of teenage members to attend indefinitely, even after the operation is a success. So in a nutshell, we can't take him out until they get the proof to do so," Kana summarized as Ryuumi nodded. Feeling like the meeting was over, Izuku began to leave when the darkness huntress approached him again. "What do you want now, Kyoka?" "To give you a heads up. When you see your old teacher, you should keep a low profile especially since you two know each other," Kyoka suggested to Izuku before he sighed. "The only thing I'm promising is that when we find incriminating evidence against Shota Aizawa, I will personally end his life. And stop calling me Izuku, that life ended when I learned the truth," Izuku told Kyoka as he left the room, leaving everyone beginning to worry. Present day. A letter of recommendation from Edge Shot. "Great," Izuku said sarcastically as he placed down the letter he took out from the envelope. "And now we just need to prepare for the first day. And with the letter, you won't have to deal with the entrance exam," Zaruba stated after Izuku closed his metal hand before he sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. "How did Dad deal with it, being a black sheep I mean?" Izuku. "Ryuga Dioge, your father, started out as a loose cannon. Though he was a compassionate Garo, his tactics were reckless and lacked subtlety. He made himself into a black sheep with his actions at the time when Garo lost its shine. Zaruba explained, causing Izuku to growl at the info he got before heading to his room, passing his mother, who had packed on a few pounds, on the way. "Hey, son. How was school today?" she asked, looking a little nervous as Izuku stopped to answer her. "About the same, mother," he told her as he paused before the last part. Is that the letter you were expecting?" "Yeah, a letter of recommendation to get into UA." Izuku clarified as he held up the letter so his mother could see it. "With this golden ticket, I could just waltz right into UA with no complaints. My guaranteed entry into that school of Hippocrates, just to bring my camp's instructor to justice," he stated as he stared at the paper like before, only this time, thinking something over. "Isn't it great? You finally get to, well, live your dream," she said with a nostalgic tone before Izuku decided to grab the letter with both hands and ripped it in half, surprising both her and Zaruba. "Why did you do that, Izuku? Stop calling that, Inko!" Izuku shouted in retaliation, leaving Inko shocked at what he said. "I tore that letter up because I got to where I am today by working hard. If I'm getting into that school, I'll do it with my own strength, not some handout," he told her before heading to his room. "You never do like the easy way, did you? If it doesn't involve any effort, I don't," he told Zaruba as Inko got over the shock before turning to where Izuku sat to open the envelope. In a pitch-black void, a sun-like spotlight shone over an empty Garo with no eyes as Izuku was kneeling down. 5 a.m. and I hold my breath like the quiet is sinking into the air. Biting my nails on the emergency stairs. Which will tomorrow be? The day has come. As he stood up, Izuku noticed the eye holes glowed from cyan to red, green, blue, purple, and finally orange as he stood up and reached his hand out to it when suddenly, the armor started attaching itself to him. Just then, he saw images of the previous inheritors with their names for a second each, an ancient Japanese man in a red, white, and black GI with a katana strapped to his hip named Reiku, a spiky-haired brunette in white and black trench coat with gold brooch and 6 other pieces on his shoulders, sleeves, and the straps on the flaps, named Leon Luis, a more modern Japanese man wearing a white trench coat over a black skin suit, named Kuga Sejima, a younger French blonde wearing red and white checkered pattern trench coat with a pure white inside, a mechanical right arm with black ring being hovered by a tiny floating cat, named Adrien Agresti, perhaps the biggest inheritor, a matured French blonde wearing plates of armor on his left shoulder, right hand, and knees over a white jacket with a motorcycle with 2 large tires, named Louis Agresti, and lastly, black-haired Japanese man wearing a black trench coat, underneath a leather forearm plate and 2 small brushes. Attached to 2 pelts on the sides of his trench coat, named Ryuga Dioge. The night that will never end. The rain that will never stop. They exist in this good-for-nothing world. Isn't it a little strange? I doze off and can't stay standing. It's not like I'm blaming you. In the interior of a white tower with a large hall leading out, Izuku walked from the hallway into the tower, looking in awe at the hundreds of statues that covered the walls before he got over the supposed shock and adopted a composed look. Just then, the whole room flashed brightly as Izuku covered his eyes with his arms before it calmed down. Moments later, Izuku became Garo as he began to look at himself, stopping at his new sword. Playing alone in a daydream. Will you even be embarrassed of what you imagine there? In the woods, a much younger Izuku and Bakugou were looking at each other, with the former looking calm and relaxed, the latter looking arrogant and aggressive, but both looking happy. But years later, they were now standing back to back from each other, looking both hardened, the latter showing hatred as the former showed a stoic nature. Finally, Izuku began to show the same hatred as Bakugou's while his anger got worse before they turned around and punched each other as Izuku's mechanical fist collided with Bakugou's organic one. Meanwhile in another black void, hundreds of horrors flew forth as a man with white hair in an all-black suit and corset, wielding a Jian sword as he charged forward with a joyous smile before transforming into a horror that resembled human muscle with devil wings, horns, and tail. Getting entangled in a maze. Will you say you will go even then? The sound of the starting bell played by the small traveler. Seemingly in the same void, but on solid ground, a buff blonde man began exchanging blows with an equally buff monster with a toothy beak and an exposed brain at blinding speeds as the swordsman horror clashed blades with Wataru, with his armor on, while Kana shot at the former's back with a metallic brush attached to the scope of a green and blue sniper rifle. Don't know where you're going. Aren't you actually scared? Each step you take is changing. The day has come. On a sunny day in the real world, Garo was riding on a golden horse with a red mane as 37 others around its current user's age appeared beside him, excluding a green knight with a bear theme and 2 axes on its hips, riding a metallic green triceratops with Kyoka riding behind. Moments later, a solar eclipse began to occur as Garo and the swordsman horror charged at each other with opposing armies representing one and the other. 10 months later. In the middle of a bedroom with a basic setup, Izuku, now wearing a white skin suit, was gearing up with new versions of his equipment, a soul metal arm covered in spikes and claws, a gold magnum with a lion engraving, and red, white, and black metal shoes, as Kyoka and VERYYYY watched him. So, you're really going through with this? Because this could be a setback. I'm as sure as I know you'll get over it. Izuku told Kyoka as he put on his black trench coat. I think we just don't understand why you're taking the test. VERYYYY asked as they left the room, entering the Midoriya family's living room. Then ask yourselves this, what are people going to say when they find out you and Itsuka are quirkless and you got in through recommendations? He asked as they stopped at the door, giving them time to think about what he said. So you think that if we waltz into UA with recommendation letters and no quirks, we'll look suspicious? To be honest, I didn't think of that until the day after we got our letters, when Succubus consumed Backdraft's quirk. He claimed as he opened the door and they walked through it, showing them the sun rising. Then I only have one thing left to say to you. Good luck. Kyoka told Izuku before he and VERYYYY left, with VERYYYY returning to her hidden room and Izuku heading to UA. UA High School. After a long walk, Izuku had arrived at the school as other teenagers began showing up behind him. I know you don't want to hear this, but, are you sure you want to go through with the exam? Zaruba asked as Izuku walked up to the building, only getting a nod out of him. Then what about your weapons, are they ready? Yeah, every last one. Even the new gun, especially since I'll be using normal rounds. Izuku mentally told Zaruba. An hour or two later, everyone was in an auditorium as some of the lights turned on, revealing a blond man wearing a black jacket with a tall collar and matching pants, directional speakers around his neck, and a pair of orange-tinted shades. What's up, UA candidates? Thanks for tuning in to your school DJ. Come on and let me hear ya. He shouted before cupping his right ear to the teens, waiting for a response when. You make a better DJ than Hiro. Izuku shouted to him, surprising him and everyone else in the room. I see I'm dealing with a tough crowd. That's fine, I'll get straight to the point. The man continued, undeterred. This is how the practical exam's gonna go down, okay? Are you ready? He asked loudly, getting no response this time. Like your application says, today you rockin' boys and girls will be out there conducting 10 minutes mock battles in super hip urban settings. On the mic here, you'll head to your specified battle centers, sound good? He asked as the huge screen behind him showed 7 locations marked alphabetically while everyone looked at exam tickets that they, presumably, got before entering the auditorium. I see. They're splitting us up so we can't work with any of our friends. Then it's a good thing I don't have any friends. But then again, I don't care. Izuku retorted to Bakugou before the presenter resumed after giving everyone a chance to look at their tickets. Okay. Let's check out your targets. There are 3 types of bot villains in every center. You'll earn points based on their level of difficulty, so you better choose wisely. He informed them as the screen showed a simulated city with 3 different robot silhouettes, one that appears to have a large wheel for feet, one that resembles a scorpion without pincers, and one that's more of a tank with 2 limbs with an increasing number and the letter P above each of them. Your goal in this trial is to use your quirk to raise your score by shredding these faux villains like a big song guitar solo. But check it, make sure you're keeping things heroic. Attacking other examinees of the UA is a no-no, you dig? Excuse me, sir, but I have a question. Hit me. He told someone in the crowd. On the printout, you've listed 4 types of villains, not 3. With all respect, if this is an error on official UA materials, it is shameful. Oh Horace, help us. Izuku quietly muttered as he and everyone else listened to someone who looks like an 18-year-old starting out as a lawyer. We are exemplary students, we expect the best from Japan's most notable school. A mistake such as this won't dash its an expected surprise, you idiot. Izuku suddenly yelled to the guy, finally getting him to stop and look at him. To the casual observer, it would have been something that would test their ability to handle the unexpected. And who do you think you are? If you dash, just be quiet. You've done enough damage as is. Present Mike, if you'll please wrap things up. Izuku requested while giving the boy a soul-reaching glance. Sure thing, vicious yet mysterious dash, you will refer to me as Midoriya. Izuku told Present Mike, getting him to sigh in response. Very well. These 2 are right. The 4th villain type is supposed to be a surprise that tests your ability to handle unknown factors. Not everything can go your way. Unfortunately, they are worth 0 points, given that they aren't supposed to be destroyed. Present Mike informed them as a 4th robot appeared alongside the other 3 on the screen, resembling the 3rd, but with a whole humanoid upper half. There's one in every battle center. I recommend my listeners try to ignore it and focus on the ones at the top of the charts. Izuku, I understand your aggression, but you have to remain calm. Just until the actual exam begins. I know. But given the fact that I was up until midnight and I'm having to deal with this freak's inability to take a hint, it's making my new arm itch. Izuku mentally told Zaruba. Everyone began leaving. Hope you practiced hitting more than just books. Battle Center, B. After a short bus ride, everyone that was assigned to Center B, including Izuku, who now has a black breastplate and a pair of spiked metal leggings on with his previous gear, stood in front of a giant set of doors leading to the battle center. One last chance to inspect my gear. Izuku thought to himself as his mechanical arm began to rearrange itself, turning into a longsword-length lance as some of the other participants began taking notice of his new appendage. Excuse me, I am trying to remain focused. Izuku told the guy from before as he tapped the toe caps onto the ground, one at a time, causing them to him softly and lift Izuku up a few inches by his midsoles. I just wish to apologize for potentially ruining a teaching moment for everyone, and to introduce myself properly. Tenya said to Izuku as he bowed to him before straightening back up and holding out his right hand. My name is Tenya Ida from the Semi-Private Academy. You can call me Midoriya. Izuku told Tenya as he shook his hand before pulling it back to pull out his new magnum to turn the safety off. Those are authorized, right? Tenya asked cautiously as Izuku stood on his toes, stopping the push momentarily as it slowly began to hum louder. Had the paperwork sent 9 months ago, ironically the same day Backdraft lost his quirk. He told Tenya before getting into a runner position while using his lance arm to position his gun forward. Let's start. Present Mike yelled out from top of a watchtower as the doors swung open, causing Izuku to sprint in while skating at near breakneck speed, leaving everyone in the dust. Get moving. There are no countdowns in real battles, he continued to yell out as Izuku used his lance arm to pierce and plow through a green robot worth 2 points before shooting a 3-point robot's eye on his right, shutting it down. His lance arm then began to compact into a spiked mace before he thrusted his hand, causing it to pop out with a chain connected to it, and swung it around for a second before crushing a 1-point robot's head on the left. Here's where the fun begins. He states loudly as he reeled his flail back into his arm. 4 minutes later, the exam was almost halfway done as the zone was littered with scraped machines. While in an unknown location, numerous others were watching from a high-tech screen. Clearly the examinees have no idea of how many villains are present or their locations. They have limited time, must cover a vast area, and hunt down every last target. Someone stated as a camera feed showed someone with 6 arms connected by skin-like membrane surveying the area from the top of a building. Some use information-gathering abilities to plan out strategies, while others use speed to pull ahead of their peers. He added as another feed showed Tenya smashed a 1-point robot before stopping at a drift. Of course, remaining calm under pressure can be a huge advantage, as can combat and pure power ability. He also added as 2 more feeds showed a blonde boy wearing a white sweatshirt, dark blue pants, and a metallic belt, taking down a 2-point robot with a beam coming from the buckle of his belt. However, the most successful students use a combination of all these tactics. They're the ones who rack up the highest scores. He added lastly as 1 more feed showed Izuku sawing a 3-point robot in half with a newly formed circular saw arm. I'd say this year's group looks promising. A woman with a stuck tone to her voice stated. Well, there's still plenty of time before it's over. The real test has yet to come. Another with a raspy voice stated as he pressed a red button with the words Yaruki SWCH. Let's see how they react. Back in Battle Center, B, the ground began to shake as a giant green robot on tank treads for legs emerged, causing everyone around Izuku to stop fighting and flee. That must be the 0-point robot. Now I see why Present Mike said they're not supposed to be destroyed. He said to Zaruba after his arm returned to its original form. Less than 2 minutes remaining. Present Mike yelled out as the 0-point robot slowly advanced. Zaruba, how many points do I have? At least 22. But something isn't right. Zaruba claimed before they heard someone cry out in pain, getting Izuku to look further down at the street ahead and saw a girl with auburn hair, trapped by some rubble. At that moment, Izuku sprinted to the girl and proceeded to kick the rock, holding her down, off. Are you alright? He asked her as he helped her up. Yeah, I think so. Then you can run. Help anyone evacuate, I'll take care of Goliath here. Izuku told the girl right before he ran to the 0-point robot, leaving her to fall back. Once he got close, Izuku jumped onto the base of the 0-point robot and drew his Jien sword. Time for the death by 1,000 cuts. He shouted as he gripped his sword in both hands and swung hard at the side of the giant robot, leaving a deep gash as sparks flew from the severed wires. This causes the robot to stop and attempt to reach for Izuku, which gets him to jump from the approaching hand and onto the body while engaging his lance arm, using that and his sword to climb while damaging just below the hull until he reaches the neck. The neck looks too thick to cut through. Not all of it. Those large tubes look vulnerable. Zaruba theorized as Izuku then planted his sword into the machine before his lance arm turned into a saw. He then launched his saw arm at the jugular equivalent to slice them both open before turning it into a lance with a drill design. As the robot reacted to the severed parts by attempting to grab Izuku, he yanked his sword before jumping off while simultaneously launching his drill arm into the back of the 0-point robot's chin, embedding it while Izuku used it to rappel down. Once halfway down, the chain connecting the lance arm had reached its end as Izuku then yanked the drill out, reeling it back in while revealing that it had turned into a 3-pronged hook as it tore out a decent chunk before reusing it to latch onto a random ledge on the building on the right, continuing his rappel. Time's up. Present Mike shouted right before a siren sounded, officially declaring the exam over. Afterwards, most of the participants in the area began to gossip about Izuku, who was now on solid ground as the 0-point robot was slumped over with its arms dangling, dead. I didn't even know it could turn into a hook. Oh well, it worked to my advantage anyway. Izuku muttered as he reeled the chain back into his arm and the hook arm turned back into his hand. Shortly after, he noticed people staring at him. If you're going to stare, don't. I need to get going. He told them before reactivating his shoes, skating past the crowd until he spotted a short, elderly woman with a netted hair bun, wearing a doctor's coat, a helmet-like headwear connected by a purple-tinted visor, and held a syringe-shaped cane, walking towards him. Very nice, good work all around. You're heroes in my eyes, every one of you. Especially you, young man. The lady said as Izuku decided to stop for a moment. You know, never in my whole career as a nurse of UA have I ever seen anyone take down one of those robots. You must have an amazing quirk. She stated, causing Izuku's left eye to twitch briefly before he then twisted his prosthetic arm a bit before pulling it off, revealing an adapter at where his elbow should be, which effectively scared the elderly lady and caused everyone behind him to gasp in shock or horror. What the hell? I would rather be dead than be a freak like you. Izuku told her as he reattached his metal limb with a slight twist before skating away once more, leaving everyone shocked. 1 week later, near the Midoriya residence. Late at night, Garo had tackled a red horror with horn-like antennae and a pair of wings before he swung his long sword upward, splitting it in two before it vaporized. His armor then disengaged, leaving Izuku as he sheathed his sword and pulled out a letter with a wax seal and the words, UA High School, written on the bottom right corner. After a week with no response, I get an envelope from UA in the mail. He said to himself before he spotted his apartment door a few meters away. Once he opened the door to his home, he saw Itsuka, Kyoka, Wataru, and Kana sitting next to Inko by a kitchen table. Guys, what are you doing here? We're here to see the results. Itsuka told him as she then held up a letter, identical to Izuku's. You took the exam too? Izuku asked as she nodded with a smile. Shortly after, everyone gathered around the living room as Inko was now the only one not sitting, pacing around instead. Ready? Itsuka asked Izuku as he nodded in response before they opened the letters, pulling out, not a letter, but a strange little device that they placed onto the table. However, as they did that, the devices turned on as two projections beamed from it, showing a buff blonde in a yellow shirt with vertical lines and a blue tie. Booyah! I am here as a projection. The man stated as the projections noticeably echoed, surprising everyone as they saw who was giving them the news. All Might? He must have been hired there as a change of career. Wataru theorized as All Might continued right after. You're probably wondering why I'm the one giving you your test results. So let me answer that by introducing the newest UA faculty member. All Might informed them before someone on the other side of the camera told him something, though they had no audio. Yeah, what's the matter? Who's showboating? Oh, sorry. I'll wrap it up, but I have to show him, her something first. Wait, I have to do how many of these things? All Might asked the person before they gave him a non-auditory number, causing him to sigh heavily. Right. So, moving on. Not only have you passed the written test, you also passed the practical exam with 30/25 combat points. Ah, I miscounted. Zaruba quickly added in before All Might continued. But what you probably didn't know is that there were other factors. You see, the practical exam was not graded on combat alone. After all, a hero also needs to have the drive to save others, no matter the consequences to himself. That's why we have rescue points, points that are awarded by a panel of judges who award points for heroic acts beyond just fighting villains. Izukumidoriya/Itsuka Kendo, 60 out of 40 rescue points. All Might told them as the screens then showed the official scoring of the top 10 who scored the highest. UA High School. Early in the morning, Izuku, who had a more ordinary-looking arm with a pretty bulky elbow now, Kyoka, and Itsuka were standing in front of the gate to the high school, all three of whom were wearing nearly identical school uniforms. Are you ready for this? 'Cause there's no going back now. Yeah. Good luck in class, 1B, Itsuka. Izuku told Itsuka before they walked up to the school. Once inside, Izuku and Kyoka headed for the level where classroom 1A is, and man was the door leading said classroom huge. Either there are some giant teachers working here, or equally giant students learning here. Either way, we have to enter. Izuku stated before he slid the door open, showing them some of the other students that made it into class. A redhead with spiky hair and sharp teeth, a boy with red hair on the left side of his head and white hair on the right while a noticeable scar was over his left eye, a girl with long black hair tied up in a ponytail while a thick bang hung over the right side of her face, someone with a raven head, and lastly, unfortunately, Tenya Ida and Katsuki Bakugou. Take your feet off of that desk now. It's the first day and you're already disrespecting this academy by scuffing school property, you cretin. Tenya reprimanded Bakugou, who had his feet laying on a desk. You're kidding me, right? Did your old school put a stick up your ass or were you born with it? Bakugou asked arrogantly as Tenya was shocked by his attitude. Let's start over. I'm Tenya Ida from the semi-private academy. Semi, huh? So you must think you're better than me. I'm gonna have fun tearing you a new one. Bakugou said maliciously, causing Tenya to gasp in shock. You would threaten me? Your own classmate? Are you sure you're in the right place? He asked out of shock before noticing Izuku and Kyoka from his peripheral vision. HM. It's him. He muttered before walking towards them. My name is Tenya Ida Fro Dash, we heard you the first time, 4 eyes. Name's Kyoka Jiro. Kyoka told him before holding out her hand for Tenya to shake it. Midoriya, may I ask you a question? Sure. Izuku said with a shrug. Did you know there was something more to the practical exam? If so, then I truly did owe you that apology. You are far superior to me as a student. Ida stated as both Izuku and Kyoka looked surprised at this. Wow. Not even the first day, and you're already getting praised. She stated before patting his back. Well. Have fun with the stiff. Kyoka told Izuku before heading to one of the open seats. On the contrary. I had no idea of hero points, I just assumed they were looking for those that could do the most damage. He answered Ida honestly, surprising him in return. So you brought all that artillery. So I could do as much damage as possible, yes. Izuku reiterated before walking past him and into an open desk, one that was right next to Kyoka. Afterwards, students that made it into the course began to trickle in, varying from normal humans with minor yet noticeable alterations, to ones with multiple limbs, pink skin, tiny horns, and black eyes with yellow irises, being completely invisible with clothing being the only thing visible, and a midget with seemingly curly purple hair. Eventually, there was only one desk left open and no sign of a teacher. That's it, it's almost time for class to begin and the teacher's still not here. Izuku stated before getting up from his desk. Where are you going, Izuku? To talk with the principal about where our teacher is. And then punched the teacher in the face. He told Kyoka as he walked up to the door. However, as he opened the door, he spotted the girl he saved a week ago. Hey, I recognize you. You're the boy with the Swiss Army hand. So I was right, you did get in, not that I'm surprised. That arm was amazing. She said as she began to swing her right arm enthusiastically before Izuku grabbed it, making her stop. That's great, but can you stop? I need to talk with Nizu about our teacher being absent. He told the girl as he let go of her hand while she looked surprised. You mean they're not here? No. Did you pass them on your way here? He asked her as she shook her head. There better be a good reason he's late. Perhaps he's waiting for everyone to arrive. Someone said with a monotone voice behind the girl, causing the two to turn around and spot a yellow sleeping bag with a man's face. And while the girl began to whimper in shock, Izuku's face contorted to fury. You. Welcome to Ue Hyegu. He then grabbed the man by the neck with his real hand while yanking him out of the bag, revealing his attire, an all-black outfit with a utility belt and a long gray scarf. Izuku then threw the man into the room, causing him to tumble before stopping on his feet in a crouching position. Midoriya, you can't just throw a bum like that. Ida shouted to Izuku while randomly moving his right hand in a chopping motion. Trust me, Tenya. If he were a hobo, he wouldn't have been able to get past the front gate. He informed Tenya while keeping his eyes on the man. Aggressive behavior, but rational thinking. Those like you would know better than to assume I was homeless. The man claimed as he got up like nothing happened before turning his head to the whole classroom. Hello, I'm Shota Aizawa. Your teacher. He informed everyone, causing most of them to look at him in shock, while Izuku narrowed his eyes. That's him. No one else has that name, appearance, and demeanor. Zaruba mentally told Izuku, confirming Aizawa's identity as said person walked past them and reached into his bag. Right, let's get to it. Put these on and head outside. Aizawa told them as he pulled out some gym uniforms. Just then, the PDA system began to go off, causing most of the students to look at the speaker while Izuku and Kyoka continued to watch Aizawa. Nizu, attention all staff and first-year students. This is Principal Nizu requesting everyone to attend a mandatory orientation. Thank you. Afterwards, the students resumed looking at Aizawa, who looked irritated. Anyway. Back to the task. He told them. But orientation. We're gonna miss it. If you really want to make it to the big leagues, you can't waste time on pointless ceremonies. Aizawa stated coldly as Izuku was still staring him down. You do know the definition of mandatory, right? Principal Nizu claims that it's important, but I know better. Aizawa retorted as some of the students began to look concerned. Then you're a bigger fool than I thought. But then again, I don't care what happens to you. Izuku warned Aizawa while approaching him before taking the uniform from him. After a few minutes, everyone in class 1A was now outside in an open exercise field covered in sand. Alright, now that we're here, we can begin the Quirk assessment test. Up to now, you've been taking standardized tests most of your lives. But you never got to use your quirks in physical exams before. Aizawa stated as he held up a phone, showing them the events they will have to do to pass. The country is still trying to pretend we're all equal by not letting those with the most power excel. It's not rational. One day, the Ministry of Education will learn. He stated before looking at Izuku. Midoriya managed to get the most points on the entrance exam. What was your farthest softball throw when you were in junior high? 75 meters, exactly. Izuku told him before gesturing to the field. Try doing it with your quirk. Aizawa told him, causing his hands to clench in anger. Izuku. Is there a problem? Aizawa asked impatiently as Izuku proceeded to walk past him, but not before giving him a sideways glare while Kyoka looked worried. Anything goes, just stay in the circle. Aizawa told Izuku as he stepped into the circle of chalk before being handed a softball. Go on. You're wasting. He paused as he saw Izuku fiddle with his mechanical arm, causing a cannonball in the shape of an armor-piercing round to fall out, in turn causing some of the other students to gasp in shock while others murmured at the contents of his arm. Izuku then stuffed the ball inside a port in the arm that was housing the object before closing it shut as he then jerked his arm back, almost cocking it as a part near the elbow extended while the fist opened up, revealing a hole big enough to shoot the ball out. As Aizawa got over the initial shock, he saw Izuku reel back his arm and twisted his hips. Fire in the hole. He shouted before swinging his arm forward, like he was punching the air, as the part quickly receded and caused the ball to fly out with an explosion, sending the object flying past the horizon. Unfortunately, the sound caused by the cannon arm had everyone clasping their ears for a few seconds as most of them looked in shock. That wasn't a quirk. Of course my arm's not a quirk. You should have figured that out by now, freak. Izuku told Aizawa, no longer hiding the hatred in his voice or the truth as his arm smoked from the blast while turning his head to him, causing his eyes to widen in shock as he finally remembered him. Flashback, unknown location, 5 years ago. In a flaming forest with bodies of various ages scattered, a younger and bloodied Izuku had kicked an armored Aizawa's buckle, causing his armor to separate as it revealed his attire, a simple white trenchcoat with a yellow scarf, before Izuku struck his chest with his sword while bleeding from his missing left arm. Present day. Back in reality, Izuku had closed up his arm before fully turning to Aizawa, who was in shock. It can't be. He mutters before trying to regain his composure, but fails to do so. I'm calling off the exam. And you expel me, and I'll report this to Nizu. Izuku tells him bluntly, stopping him from finishing that sentence before walking over to the others. Still want to continue with the exam? He asked Aizawa while crossing his arms before he fully composed himself and held up the phone, showing them Izuku got 1,350 meters. As you can see, I want you to know your maximum capabilities. However you can. He told them as most of them began to get excited. Midoriya, are you alright? You just threatened to tell the principal about this. Ida asked as he approached Izuku. There is nothing okay when that monster's around. Izuku stated as 5 claws popped out of his fingers, resembling narrow sharp trowels. Monster. He takes whatever little hope you have and gives you nothing but despair and life-giving rage. Izuku explained before he saw his classmates looking excited. You have 3 years here to become a hero. You think it's going to be all games and playtime? Aizawa ranted before smirking with a hint of malice. Today you'll compete in 8 physical tests to gauge your potential. Whoever comes in class has none, and will be expelled immediately. He stated as everyone looked on in shock, some more obvious or subtle than others. Auditorium. Meanwhile, almost every student in school was assembled as 8 adults were waiting for the last class to arrive outside of the auditorium, slowly getting impatient. Where the hell is Class 1A? Everyone's waiting on them. A bulky man with a small X-shaped scar on his cheek, gray hair, and 2 small tusks, like an orc's, demanded. That's what I wanted to say. Aizawa's running the class. A skinny blonde man with a sharp chin informed them, surprising most of them. Of all the teachers here, they had to get him. Present Mike stated as a small, well-dressed mouse with white fur and a large scar over his right eye side. I should have seen this coming. All Might, Present Mike, you 2 will accompany me to the PE field. Nizu ordered while pointing to the 2 as All Might bulked up before he pointed to a woman with thick spiky hair that reached down to her that looked like a pine tree shaved halfway, and an outfit that was 100% inappropriate. Midnight, you and Vlad King will have to give the speech and inform them of the new rules for teachers. And for the love of God, Midnight, please leave your innuendos out of the speech. Nizu ordered and begged as All Might held him up and placed him on his shoulder. We'll do our best, sir. Vlad King stated before they headed for outside. You know, it sounds like he wants you to do all the talking. Midnight claimed as Vlad King shrugged before them and the other teachers entered the auditorium. Like I said, I get to decide how this class runs. Understand? If that's a problem, you can head home right now. Aizawa stated as he smiled with pure malice as Izuku began to tighten his metal fist hard enough for it to start creaking. You can't send one of us home. I mean, we just got here. Even if it wasn't the first day, that isn't fair. Nothing he does is fair. Izuku stated as they all looked to him. He's cruel, heartless, and he disguises it as being rational. He's worse than most criminal punks you'll ever face in 3 years. He told them as he and Aizawa locked eyes, both showing a dislike for each other. But I will admit, I'd never expect him to expel students on a whim. All the more reason for you to keep playing along until he slips up. Please, Izuku. Zaruba begged him mentally before Izuku reluctantly accepted a moment later. Let's just get this nonsense over with. A few minutes later, everything was set up for the first test, a 50-meter dash. First at the starting line is Ida and a girl with long dark green hair tied in a bow at the end and a frog-like mouth. Runners, on your mark, ready. A small robot on a tripod said with an annoying voice before a starter's pistol fired, signaling for them to run to the finish line with Ida coming in first, 3.04 seconds. At 50 meters, I can only get up to third gear. Ida mentally stated as smoke came from 6 pipes each on his calves. Well, he's definitely in his element, but speed won't help him in every test. Aizawa stated as he resetted the machine while the next two got ready. I'll lighten up my clothes. Oh, and my shoes too. The girl stated before the run started. Runners, on your mark, ready. The robot said again before a starter's pistol fired again, 4.49 seconds. It said as a blonde boy with a thick tail that had hair on the tip came in first with the girl coming in second. 7.15 seconds. This continued as Izuku and Bakugou were next as the former had his shoes activated, causing them to hum while the former was on his toes. Runners, on your mark, ready. The robot said again before a starter's pistol fired again. As Izuku sprinted, his shoes propelled him forward while Bakugou used his quirk to also propel himself. Burst speed. He shouted while firing off a controlled explosion to move as fast as Izuku, after he had started slowing down. I'm not letting you succeed, freak. Izuku states just before he jumped in front of Bakugou and leaped off of him like a stepping stone while throwing the latter off balance. 2.89 seconds. How's that, Shaggy? Izuku asked sarcastically as Bakugou made it to the finish, looking furious as there's now a singed hole in his shirt. Track playing, a tough battle from Dragon Ball Super. Deku, you cheating bstrd. Bakugou shouted as he sprinted at Izuku as his hand bursted for a second before they gave out suddenly. What the ga? Izuku then took this opportunity to grab Bakugou by the throat before slamming him to the ground, causing him to try and get out of his grip. Stop. Stop right now or I'll make you wish that punch 10 months ago killed you. He threatened Bakugou as everyone watched in shock while Aizawa's eyes turned to a glowing red while his hair began defying gravity. Izuku's arm then began to prime itself to move the fist forward, like a one-shot jackhammer, as Bakugou continued to struggle until he stopped and felt 6 claws almost pricking his skin. Final warning. And I'm not going to make any mistakes this time. Izuku states to Bakugou through his teeth, causing his eyes to widen before he finally raises his hands in defeat while shutting his eyes and clinging his teeth in frustration. About time. You, hogtie him until the next test. Izuku told Aizawa as he proceeded to walk over and start tying Bakugou's limbs together after Izuku stepped back. After a few minutes, everyone was in PE building as Aizawa crouched down to Bakugou, who was still tied up. Now, I am going to release you from the binds. If you attack anyone, quirkless or not, your butt is out of here. That's right, I say things that I don't normally say in public. He warns Bakugou slowly and clearly before he unties him, letting Bakugou continue the test as they were now onto grip strength. Wow! You hit 540 kilograms. You're such a beast. Yeah, like a muscle-y octopus. A boy with jagged bangs and elbows that look like the base of a tape dispenser and a midget states excitedly to the guy with multiple arms as Izuku observed from a few feet away. Shortly after, he squeezed the device in his hand, reading his grip strength as 180 kilograms. Afterwards, they moved on to the standing long jump test where most of them, including Izuku and Kyoka, were able to clear the sandbox. Then came the repeated side steps test, the ball throw test where the brunette was the only one to get an infinity for a score, a seated toe touch test, a sit-ups test, and lastly, a distance run. Alright, time to give you your results. I've ranked you all from best to dash, what do you think you're doing? Someone yelled, causing Aizawa to jump in response before everyone turned to see Nizu, present Mike, and All Might. When I called for everyone to head for the auditorium, I mean everybody. What are you doing here? Aizawa asked, beginning to look nervous as everyone saw his expression while Izuku simply walked a few feet towards them. Principal Nizu, sir, I would like to state that we're only out here because this mess of a teacher forced us out here. He informed Nizu while pointing to Aizawa, ratting him out. That's it. Pack your things and leave, izukumidoriya. He's not going anywhere, and that goes for everyone else. Nizu told Aizawa, getting him to stop and look in shock. Track playing, Mamorishi Mono from Garo, the carved seal of flames. That's what the orientation was for. It was to inform the students that the teachers will be more restricted in methods. That means you can't expel students on a whim anymore. Nizu informed everyone, surprising them as Izuku and Kyoka smiled at this. But Nizu, that is completely irrational. It's cruel to let a kid keep dreaming of something that will never come true. I've made up my mind. And since you tried to expel a quirkless student for speaking out, I will have to write you up. Nizu told Aizawa with a glare as Present Mike walked up to the ladder. Come on, man. Don't make this any worse than it has to be. He calmly said to Aizawa while placing a hand on his shoulder. Fine. Anyway, here's the results. Not like they matter anymore. Aizawa told the students as he showed them a holographic display of everyone's test rank with their names. Momo Yaoyorozu, 1st. Shototodoroki, 2nd. Katsuki Bakugou, 3rd. Izukumidoriya, 4th. Tenya Ida, 5th. Kyoka Jiro, 6th. Fumikage Tokoyami, 7th. Mizo Shoji, 8th. Mashireo Ojiro, 9th. Eijiro Kirishima, 10th. Mina Ashido, 11th. Achiko Uraraka, 12th. Koji Koda, 13th. Rikido Sato, 14th. Tsuyu Azui, 15th. Yuga Aoyama, 16th. Hanta Siro, 17th. Denki Kaminari, 18th. Toru Hagakure, 19th. Minoru Mineta, 20th. I could have been expelled. The midget yelled out in shock, revealing himself to be Mineta. Looks like we dodged a bullet. Yeah, but now we've jumped in front of a cannon. Kyoka told a boy with short gold hair while Izuku noticed the black-haired girl looking suspiciously at Aizawa, who was now walking away. Go ahead and pick up a syllabus in the classroom and read it over before tomorrow morning. He told them before being stopped by Nizu himself. Not so fast. Go with your students and make sure they get to class safely. He told him, pointing to his class for him to return to. Is something the matter? It's just that when he told us he would expel the one in last place, Mr. Aizawa seemed to have been bluffing. But when you revealed you had no quirk, he was about to expel you then and there. She informed Izuku, while everyone who heard her looked in shock. Sorry. I should have said something. She said sheepishly. After a few minutes, everyone had returned to class, 1A as All Might and Aizawa were standing outside while the students were currently inside the room. That was a rotten move, trying to expel you of your best students just because he's quirkless. Though, I shouldn't be surprised given how you apparently expelled an entire class of freshman students last year. I already told you why I do that. Besides, I give them the opportunity to re-enroll them later. Aizawa stated to All Might while keeping his expression as tired-looking as possible, though the latter knew better. You were panicking. And I know exactly what that's like, so I know you didn't try that for shits and giggles. You two have bad BLD. He said to Aizawa as he looked more awake than before. Afterwards, he just simply opened the classroom door and walked through, leaving All Might alone as Aizawa closed the door. What are you trying to hide, Aizawa? 6 hours later. The school day has ended as students are now leaving for home. So, what happened in orientation? Izuku asked Itsuka as they and Kyoka were walking from the school. It was okay, could have gone better if your class had shown up. Ugh, it's our teacher's fault. Shota Aizawa, his name was. Kyoka told Itsuka, causing her to wince at the name. Wow, bad luck. We come here looking for our traitor, and here he is in your class. What's worse is that he's already isolated me as a threat. So I need to be careful, and not lose my cool before he does. Izuku explained. Just then someone grabbed onto his shoulder, causing him to perform a suinage on the person, throwing them to the ground while revealing the person to be Tenya just as Izuku's metal claws sprouted out. Wait! It's me! Tenya shouted while holding his hands out in front of Izuku, getting him to stop and scowl at him. Call out to me next time, you idiot. He told Tenya before holding out his right arm while retracting the claws on his left. He then pulled him back up before Tenya dusted himself off. You alright? Certainly. I will be sure to remember that next time. I only wish to see how you're doing. Tenya explained before they all resumed walking. I just wasn't prepared for the teacher being. Izuku paused before breathing through his nose. Him. He said to them as he looked at his metal arm. I was a bit concerned by Mr. Aizawa's approach to class. In fact, I still am when Yaoyorozu mentioned that he wasn't going to expel anyone until he found out about you. But I trust the school's judgment. UA is the top program for future pro heroes, so they're probably not used to quirkless students. Tenya explained to them before going into his thoughts as Itsuka looked annoyed at him. Hey! Wait up, you guys! The brunette yelled out as she ran over to them, looking happy, causing the girls to sigh, while Izuku groaned. Oh, god f damn it! He muttered as they turned around. Are you heading to the station? I'll join you guys. Oh, you're the Infinity Girl. Tenya stated as the girl stopped in front of them. I'm Achiko Uraraka. Let's see. You are Tenya Ida, you're Kyoka Jiro, and your name is Deku, right? Midoriya. What did you call me, Pawn-sum? Izuku demanded as his claws extended in front of him, causing Tenya and Achiko to jump at his reaction. Isn't that your name? During the test, Bakugou said quote that freak, and I will rip your jaw out of your head. He threatened as she then covered her mouth with both her hands, while letting out a yelp. Midoriya. Same goes for you, freak. He states to Tenya as he looks in his general direction without moving his head much. I am sorry, it's just that it sounded like, you can do it, to me, like it could be a hero name. I didn't mean to upset you. Achiko claimed nervously as Izuku stared at her before turning back around. Then call me Dikairu, Deku means that you can't do anything. He informed Achiko before he walked away from the group, leaving her a little more relieved as Kyoka approached her. He has a deep hatred for that nickname. Still though, he usually keeps his distance from people with quirks. Him letting you call him by a nickname is like a badge of honor. She informed Achiko, getting her nod, understanding what happened. Afterwards, they all walked to the station. Midoriya Residence, Sunset. Thank you again, Principal. Izuku said to Nizu as they sat on opposite sides of a table with a teakettle and 2 cups on it. No need to thank me. The Heroes Safety Commission wanted me to place some restraints on my teaching staff, mainly to replace the number of heroes that were lost to the horrors that possessed, devoured, and/or crippled. Nizu explained before he took a sip from his cup of tea. I guess they finally stopped ignoring the fact that people are losing quirks left and right. Either way, it's kind of a win-win, since you can use this to uncover whatever Aizawa's hiding. He stated as Izuku drank some tea. You know, I don't think anyone asked you this, but, how do you feel about us trying to expose one of the teachers? Are you really okay with this? Zaruba asked Nizu as he suddenly began to look conflicted. I won't lie, I don't like the idea of students enrolling in my school, just so they can apprehend a potential criminal. But if one of my staff members has committed a crime, no matter the context, I want to give them a chance to disprove the crime or come clean. He explained before pouring some more tea into his cup. Then, what will you do exactly with him when he's caught? If Mr. Aizawa is responsible for what happened to your camp and/or is still continuing this, I'll trust Grace's judgment. That's all we can do for now. Izuku stated before he got up and picked up the kettle, shaking it to hear that it was empty. Well, I better get to bed. Tomorrow's the official start of the hero class. He said to Nizu, who had finished his cup before standing up as well. Very well. See you in class tomorrow, young Midoriya, and make sure you stay out of trouble. Nizu retorted before proceeding to leave the residence, leaving Izuku alone as he stacked and picked up the empty cups before heading into the kitchen. How are you feeling now, Izuku? Much better. Thank you for suggesting chamomile tea. But I'll feel much better when Aizawa's gone. Izuku stated as he put the kettle and cup in the sink. Let's just hope that he isn't in the hero class. With all things considered, I think there's only one person who's running that class. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Kaigu-hunter on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.